One crystal structure doesn't do it. It has to be an entire series of crystal structures that you understand all the movements of it and the conformations.
Hi, I'm Luke Timmerman. I'm here today at the Sheraton Boston for BioPharm America with Praveen Tipirneni. He's the CEO of Morphic Therapeutic, and he's running a company that is working on dynamic modeling of protein targets. And this is a fun story. I think I've referred to it as scientists going to the movies. So Praveen, welcome for joining. Thanks for joining us today.
Thanks, Luke. Thanks for inviting me.
So can you tell us a little bit about the concept of what you're trying to do at Morphic in terms of dynamic modeling as opposed to taking still photos or static, X-ray crystals of molecular targets?
Yeah, so our company, Morphic Therapeutic, is founded on the Integrin target, which was founded by, it was discovered by Tim Springer, and it's a major transmembrane receptor that's involved in a lot of different activities. But like you said, that it's a very complex one because it has the receptor has these huge movements that go on from the inactive state to the active state, and so Tim figured out these movements essentially. And so when we're trying to discover drugs from that, we have to, one crystal structure doesn't do it. It has to be an entire series of crystal structures that you understand all the movements of it and the conformations, and then ultimately that's modeled in computation with a company that's the expert in computational chemistry, which is Schrodinger.
Mm-hmm. It's sort of like trying to watch Tom Brady throw a football by just taking a still image. You can't get the whole picture of how that happens.
That's exactly right. That's exactly right. That's essentially the founding of our company, is that when integrins were first discovered, that's all they had. Right, this dynamic modeling and understanding of these conformations and the movements didn't exist. But now, in this day and age, we have much better tools to be able to understand it. And that really is kind of what leads to the founding of Morphic Therapeutic.
So why are integrin targets promising for this approach? I think you alluded to the motion, but what are you hoping to accomplish?
Yeah, so the integrin target has been a very difficult target to drug. It's worked well in the biologics, but it hasn't worked at all in the small molecules. And essentially, that most of these diseases are chronic diseases, and so an oral drug would be very useful. And so the problem with it has been that it's very sensitive to PK, and so you really need to understand these conformations to be able to create a true antagonist for this receptor. And I think you're also describing kind of what are the applications of it. And the integrin receptor is kind of the key receptor that mediates the adhesion between the cell and the extracellular matrix. And so one way to think about it is leukocytes kind of getting to the site of injury. This is the receptor that mediates bringing it to that site. And so things like inflammatory bowel disease, where you have leukocytes where they shouldn't be, blocking this blocks a leukocyte.
So you start with a platform technology, Tim Springer's lab. You got a $50 million Series A round a year ago. You got a number of big pharma companies that invested. What are some of the early applications that you have in mind?
Yeah, thanks. So this company essentially started from scratch, and I wanted it that way. I was looking kind of long term, and instead of inheriting molecules that have all their assets and liabilities, I wanted the chance to be able to create the molecule from scratch. And so we are an early stage company. We're 2 years old, and we've essentially brought in 2 programs from scratch to lead optimization, and one of them is in fibrosis. And so this is the alpha V beta 6 integrin receptor, and so this application is things like idiopathic pulmonary fibrosis, chronic kidney disease, scleroderma, those kind of things can all be potentially affected with this one. And then the other one is alpha 4 beta 7, which is an inflammatory bowel disease. It's for inflammatory bowel disease.
Okay, so what's the next big goal in the year ahead? You've got a couple years under your belt.
Yeah. No, so hopefully if we keep tracking to the way we're tracking, knock on wood, then next year we will have 2 candidates ready for development, and that's pretty exciting, starting from scratch. So hopefully things do proceed that way, and then we will be able to start development sometime next year.
Great. Maybe you can trademark that phrase, scientists at the movies.
Yeah, I like that phrase. We're going to use that.
Thanks, Praveen. Thanks for joining us.
Excellent.